It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and this is the news for the headlines. President Jammeh relieves ministers Lamin Nyabali, Dr. Edward Sajasane, and Yambamba Njaiketa of their cabinet portfolios and appoints the former Presidential Affairs Minister as Deputy Secretary General. The Finance and Economic Affairs Ministry and Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry jointly staged a policy fair and interface devoted to public-private partnership. Former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo set to stand trial for war crimes allegedly committed during the brief civil war that engulfed the Cockroach country in 2010. An Assyrian migrant reportedly dies outside a Berlin government agency after waiting to collect refugee benefits for days. These and other stories coming ahead in the next 60 minutes. I am your presenter, FATOUMATA NDURE JOBE. The general public is hereby informed that His Excellency, the President of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Sheikh Professor Al-Haji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babli Mansa, acting under the provisions of Section 71(4)(b) of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, has decided to relieve the following of their ministerial positions with effect from 26 January 2016. Mr. Lamin Nyabali, Minister of Fisheries, Dr. Edward Sajasane, Minister of Energy, and Mrs. Yambamba Njaiketa, the Minister of Presidential Affairs. A news release from State House reveals that His Excellency the President has in the same vein appointed Mrs. Yambamba Njaiketa, Deputy Secretary General, with immediate effect. The general public, the dispatch adds, is further informed that the Ministries of Energy and Petroleum have been merged as the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. The Department of Forestry, the State House press release states, is now under the purview of the Office of the President, whereas the Ministry of Fisheries has now been integrated into the Ministry of Environment, Water Resources, Parks and Wildlife, and Climate Change. Thus, the nomenclature now reads the Ministry of the Environment, Water Resources, Parks and Wildlife, Fisheries, and Climate Change. The dispatch ends. Meanwhile, the President, His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Al-Haji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babli Mansa, accompanied by a high-powered delegation, will leave Banjul for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to attend the African Union Summit at midnight. All those invited to see the head of state and delegation of are requested to be at the Banjul International Airport at least half an hour before departure for the usual ceremonies. The annual scrutiny of the audited accounts, activity reports, and financial statements of public bodies by the Public Enterprises and Public Accounts Committees of the National Assembly is continuing unfettered. On Wednesday, it was the turn of Gambia Civil Aviation Authority and Gambia International Airlines to go through the process in relation to their activities in 2014. Rohibite was following proceedings, and she now reports.
The latest public institutions to sit before members of the joint session of Public Accounts and Public Enterprises Committees of the National Assembly were the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority and the Gambia International Airline. The first to present their reports before deputies were officials of the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. They came in their numbers as representatives of management to present their activity and financial reports for the year under review. Entrusted with the management of the Banjul International Airport, officials of the GCAA gave an overview of their operational activities during the period under review, citing it as a challenging year due to the impact of the Ebola virus in the sub-region, which led to the cancellation of many flights. In its financial report, the authority was reported to have made slight improvements, with turnover increasing by 4.36% from $361.8 million in 2013 to $377.6 million.
Even though as a state there was no registered case of Ebola, the negative press generated as a result of the prevalence of the disease in West Africa affected the country, with passenger throughput significantly declining, creating negative financial seismic waves, to use his own terms. This unfortunate period also coincided with the implementation of the Banjul International Phase 2 Airport Improvement Project, when, as an authority, we had to fulfill our obligation of paying local fees to both the consultants and the contractors of the project.
The operating profit for the year under review increased to 113.716 million from 106.65 million in 2013. However, the impact of the foreign exchange and interest expenses on the foreign currency denominated borrowings, which were incurred for the vital and significant improvements to the airport, making it one of the best in the sub-region, continues to adversely affect the financial performance of the authority.
The presentation of reports was followed by the auditor's report, which also paved the way for management to respond to some of the issues raised. The GCAA were accorded GPPA compliance of 96%. Members, led by the Honorable Speaker Abdoulaye Bojang, then rescheduled sittings for Thursday, 28 January, for consideration of their reports. The Gambia International Airlines, the body mandated to engage in air transportation and its related services, came next. According to its managing director, Bakary Nyasi, during the period under review, GIA entered into partnership with Mauritania Airlines. The GIA boss further reported that the institution's revenue turnover is on the increase due to Hajj operations registering a steady increase.
Departmental contribution to turnover, total turnover 378 million. Hajj continues to be the leading department contributing to turnover at 58%, followed by ground handling. Coach services, ticket sales, commissions, and cargo handling continue to register low percentages.
GIA has registered a revenue of 377,610,000 in 2014 as opposed to 372,873,000 in 2013.
The external auditors raised their queries, which were responded to by management. The Gambia International Airlines was found to be 92% compliant with the procurement regulations, indicating a drop of 1% from 2013. The joint session, led by the Honorable Speaker of the House, after due process, deferred officials of the GIA to the 28th of January for final consideration and approval of their audited accounts and activity reports.
I want to congratulate you for seeing yourselves ready to be audited by the PEC, and we have listened to the presentations you made. We will, of course, take the next 24 hours to go through the documents ourselves, and tomorrow we will be received again for the question and answer and the final endorsement.
Prohibitei, GRTS.
The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, in concert with the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and with support from the Enhanced Integrated Framework Project, on Wednesday organized a public-private partnership dialogue forum and a policy fair. The convergence, as summed by reports, provided actors the opportunity to reflect and discuss how public-private partnerships can promote sustainable development.
The surging demand for infrastructure development, coupled with pressures on national budgets, means governments around the world have to resort to public-private partnership to ensure efficiency and effectiveness with a view to ensuring sustainable development.
The government recognized these pervasive challenges and has therefore adopted a national policy to encourage the use of public-private partnership as a means of leveraging public and private sector resources and expertise to close the infrastructure gap and deliver efficient infrastructure and services. Government recognizes the use of PPPs as a strategic mechanism for procuring, financing, and delivering public infrastructure and related public services.
Roberts, who deputized for the Finance and Economic Affairs Minister, renewed the Jammeh administration's commitment to further enhancing private sector participation in both the formulation and implementation of the development agenda, which include prudent fiscal and monetary policies capable of enhancing the already enabling environment for all players in the economy. The Enhanced Integrated Framework Program, coordinated by Ibrahima JOBE, said the EIF's objective is to build on the foundation for accelerated growth by enhancing the integration of the Gambian economy into the regional and global market. The forum, he said, would serve as a platform to address challenges.
As far as trade, industry, and services are concerned, it is found that such a dialogue is imperative and becomes a major driver of a planning, policy, and a development program. In order to mainstream trade in our national development strategies and plans, one of key indicators of the EIF is the maintenance of the existence of functioning public-private consultation mechanism, such as this one we are having today.
After the landmark PPP policy launch in 2014, the CEO, Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Aliu Seka, posited that the forum would avail participants the opportunity to dialogue on how to achieve and implement PPP policies effectively whilst ensuring a win-win situation.
The mix of the state's structure, assets, and political power, and the private sector's ability, efficiency, and expertise lead to better public goods and services. Ultimately, the benefits accrue to society. A solid PPP structure further allows for a number of projects to be completed at the same time. They further strengthen private sector ability and confidence and stimulate a healthy economic climate. Eventually, we all reap the benefits in the form of safe infrastructure, more efficient services, and improved health and educational institutions.
The day-long consultative meeting that brought together government officials and representatives of development partners is expected to lead to many more of its kind, designed to have a positive impact on the lives of the citizenry. Samuel Ba, GRTS.
Stakeholders in the fisheries sector are currently familiarizing themselves with the new Earth Observation Information System. The new digital software was launched a year ago by West African states to ensure protection of marine resources. Echan Silva has more on that story.
Using technology to monitor the country's maritime resource with just a simple click of the mouse. This is a new surveillance method which stakeholders in the fisheries sector are working to familiarize themselves with to keep illegal fishermen at bay.
We will be able to generate information we should be able to by using satellite images. For example, when you can see a vessel in the sea and you'll be monitor that vessel, the vessel will be flying our seas, and maybe the vessel is not registered in the Gambia and is flying our territorial waters. You can always monitor that vessel.
The hands-on computer software is part of a 3-year monitoring for environment and security in the West Africa project launched in 2014 to ensure management and planning of Earth observation and marine monitoring data and services. However, participants will be taught on the operations of this facility.
We are going to train them how to use Earth observation in order to generate satellite images for planning and decision making.
The advent of this digital monitoring system has been welcomed with open arms by the fisher folk, especially those who have been introducing measures to ensure that fishing activities do not happen within the marine protected areas in a bid to allow fish to breed and spawn. One man who is also relishing this method is Dauda Sen of the National Soul Fishery Co-Management. The marine conservationist is hoping that the new initiative will eradicate illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing in the country.
And conservation is the guarantor of food security, because if you cannot conserve, we cannot guarantee our food security. And as concerns this workshop, or this training workshop, is very, very important in terms of fighting a regional approach to fight against IUU fishing. IUU means illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. This is a global problem. And even if you look at the value of IUU, it goes up to millions of dollars per annum. And the importance of this meeting is to build capacity of the fisheries operators in terms of how they are going to collaboratively conserve and manage the fisheries resources sustainably.
The Earth Observation Information System is both reliable and informal, as opposed to the old method, which is burdensome and expensive. This new method tracks illegal fishing activities taking shape within the length and breadth of the West African waters, thanks to the help of a satellite data.
It has some kind of database, and they have some kind of satellite, installed in all of these things. So there's a satellite that collects the information, pass it to the computers, and they process the information, and automatically they share the information to all the regions.
Illegal fishing has become a thorn on the flesh of many developing nations, not to mention the West African sub-region where millions of cars was lost due to the practice. On the home front, the government has been reiterating its uncompromising stance to ensure such illegal practices are kept out of bounds along the River Gambia by introducing measures and penalties to deter perpetrators. The move is meant to encourage Gambian youth to venture into fishing, as well as bring about mass availability of fish at sea. Now, the new hope is that the latest initiative would not only facilitate the work of the fisheries sector, but promote collaboration and information sharing within the fisher folk in this sub-region. Etienne Silva, GRTS News.
The establishment of the University of the Gambia by the JAME administration has had a catalytic effect on the growth of higher education in the Gambia, for at least 2 other universities have opened their doors to cater for the rising demand for quality tertiary institutions. Well, one of those is the Islamic Online University, whose president, Dr. Bilal Phillips, is visiting the Gambia. GRTS's Samuel Bass sat down with the scholar to discuss the enviable gains made in the area of university education, and here are some excerpts.
First and foremost, can you tell us why you are here in the Gambia currently?
It's my pleasure to be here. I was invited by Gambians in Toronto, actually, because I helped them fundraise for a Gambian masjid in Toronto. They were very eager for me to come and visit the Gambia, and I have some colleagues and friends who are here. So that was my initial introduction or encouragement to come, and also the fact that my university, the Islamic Online University, was at that point seeking accreditation and licensing, and I was encouraged by what I heard about the Gambia to make it a place where I would seek that accreditation, to find a base or a headquarters for my university, which is an online university, but it needed a headquarters on the ground. So the Gambia seemed to present the best opportunities.
You are the Chancellor of the Islamic Online University. I'm sure prior to your coming you must have had a fair knowledge about the Gambia. What would you say is the fundamental reason that motivated you to set up here in the Gambia?
Well, I could say that, one, the country is fundamentally an English-speaking country. My university is an English medium university. Secondly, the university is an Islamic university. And Gambia, alhamdulillah, is known as an Islamic country, 95% or more Muslims. And its leader is a very strong supporter of Islam and the development of Islam. So this made it an ideal option in terms of the countries of Africa. It made it one of the most ideal, and Gambia also has a record of stability. A country where people do feel safe. Being here, it's a ruler who has established security in the country. So all of these factors, and then I could say that the university professors and administrators that I met here, were all very welcoming. And the online university is a new addition to the educational field available for graduates here in the country, and people who are coming from other countries to study here in the Gambia. So all of this made it a very attractive place as a center for the Islamic Online University.
You may also want to talk to us about some of the degree programs you offer And what medium of communication do you use since the name Islamic? How should ordinary people see it?
Actually, the university began, in an Islamic context. Our basic bachelor's program was Sharia, but I had already seen the necessity to include in the Sharia program other modern areas of learning, whether it's in economics or psychology, information technology, business administration. I'd already included these as subjects within the Sharia syllabus. And once we had our first batch of graduates in 2014, I then expanded those subject areas into colleges. So though we started primarily as an Islamic, we could say, based university, our courses were all specifically academically Islamic, with those additions, we said, of modern subjects. We are now, having expanded our college range, a modern university in the sense of the majority of the colleges now are not specifically Islamic. But I should say, because if we said we offer business administration, information technology, banking and finance, psychology, Arabic degree also. So these other subjects, take it out of the realm of being purely Islamic now. So our majority of our colleges are not specifically Islamic, but we do teach everything from an Islamic perspective, a comparative perspective. So the student who's studying economics, he or she will look at what the West has arrived at in modern economics. Then they will look at what Islam holds. They will compare between the two. Why does Islam reject this approach to economics, and prefers that approach, so that they have a critical analysis of that field, as opposed to just taking whatever the West has given us, without spoon-fed, without having any thinking process. We just learn what they teach and we just live according to what they have taught. But we need to think for ourselves. We as a Muslim country, need to have our own analysis. We have to be able to look at things and critically analyze them. What is really in our interest?
The Gambia has really made headways in terms of higher education at the dawn of the second revolution. You may also want to share with us some of the expansions that you think are very, very clear and obvious.
Well, in terms of the very campus, how the university has grown, expanded its campuses, brought in new buildings, new faculties, and we see a very strong area of cooperation in the information technology side, online study. This has also been introduced into the university, so they're keeping in touch with the latest developments in technology to make the courses that are available there as relevant, and as you could say future focused as possible. And alhamdulillah, the staff has been rapidly increasing, and we are sharing staff between UTG and the Islamic Online University. I have myself given a number of lectures in the UTG with a very strong support from the students. They are very much aware and very much conscious of the need for further development of the curriculums from an Islamic perspective, including Islam. Islam has a place to play in it, and definitely with the Department of Islamic Studies there on the campus, we see that the UTG is seeking to combine all aspects of educational training in the campus as it expands on into the future.
Samuel Bader discussing higher education with the president of the Islamic Online University. Commercial drivers have been reacting positively to government's decision to ban Gambia National Transport Control Association from any involvement in the transportation sector. The drivers made their feelings known during a tour of major road transport hubs in the Kanifing municipality by Mayor Yankuba Koli. Kumbaba went along and she now reports.
The mayor of Kanifing municipality, Yankuba Koli, was out on inspection to various picking points. A day after the announcement of the banning of the Gambia Transport Control Association in the country's transportation sector, the mayor and entourage were out to ensure the full implementation of the ban.
You heard of the press release from the Ministry of Trade that the Gambia National Transport Control Association has been banned, and all its activities are also banned. So, and their operation is bigger in my municipality than any other area. So this is why we're taking up ourselves as management. We came out to enforce it. That's the reason why we are out today.
The first port of call for the entourage was at the Jimpex main junction, where mayor and team had discussion with drivers at a popular picking point. Here, the mayor emphasized the need for all to observe the new directive.
It was a long time outcry, and I can see right now, even where we visited, the people are definitely in appreciation of the decision that is made by government. And they really welcome the decision, and they want to work with the municipalities and other agencies of development. It is honestly true out the tour. You can see it yourself that it is approved by everybody who is using the garage.
Vehicle owners have welcomed the new development, a measure they say will help them in their day-to-day business.
All what I want to tell them is to make sure that let them not be fooled by anybody. Let them see it as a decision to make them good. If you looked at what their contributions, the contribution that they are doing, and where it is going, and how they were also explaining about those contributions, you can realize that they are accepting it. And I'm telling them also to come and support government in this endeavor.
From Jimpex, the officials drove to the busy Westfield Junction, where Mayor Colley had a similar discussion with drivers. Here again, the message to the drivers was the same. I asked Mayor how effective the ban will be implemented. He has this to say.
Immediately we got information about what is coming up, we started to put our house in order to prepare for it. And that is exactly what happens. This is why we do not waste any time. We are right now on the ground to see what is going on and to inform the people that are affected, to tell them exactly what it means even if you don't hear it or heard it from the radio and television. We still come to tell you people, to tell them that this is exactly what is going to happen. And I think for my office, we are ready. We have already put a desk officer in charge of all the garages, and that we are going to the garages also. Again, we are moving to tell them the way we want things to work.
The new step taken by government is to bring sanity to this vital sector, which is very crucial to the country's transportation industry. Reporting for Grts News, I am Kumbaba.
The high seas and oceans continue to claim countless lives, especially those of young people in their prime. The worrying trend has prompted a grassroots body called Learn to Learn Drama and Theatre to fund the shooting of a movie aptly titled, I Have Sworn Not to Eat Fish. Aissatou Jatta was at the premiere of the movie, expected to discourage potential irregular migrants from embarking on risky journeys, and she now reports.
The ferocious seas and oceans, seemingly hungrier for more souls, continue to claim the lives of more irregular migrants attempting to make it from Africa, in some cases, and conflict zones like Syria to Europe for socio-economic prosperity. The brutal truth is, most of the economic migrants and others fleeing political and social unrest are youths. This in part motivated Learn to Learn Drama and Theatre Foundation to help reverse the trend and save the future. The foundation's main weapon against the challenge is a thrilling piece of drama depicting scenarios irregular migrants, among them young people, are likely to encounter.
There's this important thing I wanted to talk to you about. All my friends have made it to Europe. I am just stuck behind. Why would you put your life in the hand of criminal without any respect or any care for human life?
Let me tell you one thing, man. You see, the only real risk that exists in this life is to sit and never take risk. I decided to send Idrissa to Europe.
But why? What happened? You only see a misery here sitting in the Gambia. But you don't know anything, I mean absolutely anything about Europe. You see, you guys, you're nothing but a bunch of cowards. You're scared of dying.
The movie also showcases other factors responsible for the nightmare, such as lack of education on the part of the economic migrants about the true picture of Europe. The migrants and sponsors tend to hold the belief that they can get rich overnight in Europe, which in most cases is false.
I know education is expensive, but Kelunda, at our age we all know ignorance pay more higher price. Education is a must.
No one will develop our motherland except us. You and I know education in this country is a road that leads to nowhere. It's just an investment in a future that doesn't exist.
I don't want to go on Christian studies.
From my father, but I don't want to go. Let me tell you. Can I tell you something?
Education is the basic right of a child.
Can I tell you something? My born father wanted me to go to Europe for work. What? At any cost? No.
And a violation to this right is equal to eliminating his future.
You better think of our life when he started sending us money. Everybody will see us like sunshine. They will walk behind us, and the whole village will respect us.
People really have to understand Gambians have talent, and this is written by us. The only thing they did was editing, but the whole of the idea was ours. The wordings were ours, and everything was ours, though they really played their own role. So people need to understand that Gambians have talent, and they need to believe in us, because that is one step towards making it. They need to believe in us that we can do it, so as to give us that support. They also need to know backway is not the solution. It's not the solution. The only thing, our sustainability and continuity depends on our education. It doesn't depend on the amount of money we have, but the knowledge base is the most important.
Thrilled with the Land-to-Land Drama and Theatre Foundation's efforts, Aja Usman Jallo, Lady Councillor, Combo Southward, said Gambian youth should not waste their lives at the sea, when the government under President Jammeh has a lot to offer. The free education package and interventions like NYSS are some of the initiatives designed to empower the youth to cater for dropouts, who in most cases account for the bulk of the irregular migrants, she added. Alkalu Lamin Bojan of Tanje is more than grateful to the dramatist. It's not bad to travel, but doing it with dignity is important, was the point made by Mama Africa.
It's very, very sad. We're crying in our heart. Because it's definitely something which is unexplainable. It is something which pains every mother, every father, every sister, and every brother. It's not something like a joke. It's not something to laugh about. It's not something that you think that you can enslave your own family, your daughter, your son, because you want to have your future proper or better. I think we all have our hands and our feet, and we can walk by ourselves. It will keep us healthy than to send our children or to send our brothers or our sisters to the back way, or them in thinking that they have to go to Europe and there they can bring something, so that they can be someone tomorrow.
A poet attempted to compliment the inroads made by the movie, recited a poem, stressing his pride as an African, and more so a Gambian.
If we, the sons of Africa, will learn like flies in the white man's land, then how will the future of our Africa be? We, these children, who should hold pace to reconstruct Africa, we, these children, who should inhale oxygen to survive Africa, we, these children, who should repaint the chains of our history, we, these children, will then be the true sons and daughters of our Africa.
The movie was directed by Maurice van Dijk, a Dutch national, whilst an European-based Gambian in the persons of Alagi Saho has been credited with being the force behind what is an educative movie. Aissatou Jatta, GRTS.
During the 90s, the sub-regional economic bloc, ECOWAS, was preoccupied with means of ending incessant instability that threatened to consume the entire world region by looking inwards, which eventually led to the formation of the force called ECOMOG. GRTS's Francis Mendy and Keba Diba recently sat down to look back on those days.
Do you think ECOWAS should be more proactive when it comes to fighting the Boko Haram insurgency that is not only threatening maybe Nigeria, but 2 other countries and 3 other countries, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, Francis, there's a saying that insecurity anywhere is insecurity everywhere. We are talking about a bloc. That means one. We may be individual countries. But yes, even sovereignty itself has been sacrificed to some extent for the good, for the common good. So nobody is left out in this thing. Boko Haram is not only operating in Nigeria. Now you are talking about 4 countries within that region. What's the next port of call? Do you know?
Recently, I read somewhere, I believe it was on Al Jazeera, that a country as far as Senegal is now thinking of what? Banning, the total veil, or the hijab, I believe, because of fear of what? Boko Haram supporters infiltrating Senegal and also starting to carry out attacks of this nature. And I believe this alone should serve as a wake-up call to ECOWAS and all other institutions that are in a position to help curb this menace or stop it once and for all.
Yeah, nobody should assume that it's going to be over anytime soon. I think what we are seeing is the emergence of new types of security threats, and this does not require any kind of conventional approach in the military sense in dealing with them. Then the whole dynamics of security or insecurity is changing. And if your security, national defense or security strategy is based on the assumption that you will be dealing with conventional forces in real formation, then you're making a serious mistake. This is why national defense security is no longer the domain or the exclusive of the generals. Look, there are a whole range of players now. And from any part of the world. You see, battle lines and battlefields, the front lines are blown now. And it seems as every inch of this earth is now becoming a front line. Wars are being fought with all manner of apparatuses, not only conventional military or weapons of mass destruction, and they have unlimited destructive capabilities and capacities. And we must brace ourselves up for these new security challenges of the 21st century. Certainly, Francis.
And I believe another important goal of ECOWAS was, and I believe is still, the creation of a second monetary zone in West Africa. I believe the targets keep shifting, target dates keep shifting, and also I believe the bar has been lowered a number of times just to make sure at least, the countries make it to the finish line. What's your take on that, sir?
The danger is when you set standards and you keep lowering standards just because you want people to be absorbed in a grand kind of, that is dangerous. The second monetary zone is premised on what? Certain fundamental economic criteria. I think it's about 5 within that region. And these are the convergence criteria that these individual countries are supposed to meet. So what happens? It's kind of a roller coaster. You have 15 countries in this region. Then what if one country meets 3 targets and fails short of 2? Or one country meets 4 this year, and then the next year it drops 2. So when will all these countries meet this criteria? I think that's why you're talking about lowering the bar to some extent. It may be necessary, but then don't lower it too much to a point that you compromise quality and standards and everything else. Then it just becomes an institution in name.
And throw the whole economic bloc into the situation that, Greece recently found itself in, or the European Union, if I may say so.
Yes, there is the possibility. There is the possibility. Just that you have individual countries actually coming into kind of a monetary union. Even in the euro, that is a strong, steady currency, lately we have seen problems in the eurozone. There was a point people even thought Greece was going to opt out. And UK is now pushing for reforms within the UK as a condition of its being a member of the. So individual countries have their individual priorities. But look, each country has to make the sacrifices for the collective good. And this is why sovereignty, individual national sovereignty, is compromised in the interest of the greater good. So, economic integration, yes, we are pursuing it, but the pace, painfully slow. I don't blame the institution, honestly speaking. It has to deal with the problems, the insecurity problems in this country. It has no other priority more than that, because it is on peace and security that you can build on. So it's a difficult situation for ECOWAS, honestly, and the leaders themselves have to admit we have come a long way. Of course, we have achieved a lot, and it's believed that, in fact, it is one of the best sub-regional economic blocks among the continent. Fine, but that is not very much the argument, the narrative from the perspective of integration. Absolutely. Yes, in the area of conflict resolution, peace management, it has really achieved a lot.
GRTS's Francis Mendy and Keba Adibade discussing the achievements of ECOWAS. Meanwhile, the Forum for African Women Educationalists Gambia Chapter FAWEGAM recently used a donor brunch to lift the lead on its 2016-2020 strategic plan and program of activities. Chenke Toure was at the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute for the interface, and she now reports.
African Women Educationalists, the Gambia chapter, FAWEGAM, have adopted the 2012-2016 strategic plan. The strategic plan is aimed at consolidating the gains and repositioning the organization to maximize opportunities for change. FAWEGAM's development interventions, according to its national coordinator, will specifically focus on achieving the educational targets on gross enrollment rate.
We just completed our 2016-2020 strategic plan. We have taken it through the process of validation and presentation to the FAWE board, FAWE staff and members, policymakers, and today we are going to present it to you, the donors.
The Forum for African Women Educationalists is a pan-African non-governmental organization led by African women working towards equality and equity in education across the continent. This particular gathering is aimed at promoting girls' rights to and in education.
Since inception, we have achieved a lot and have seen parity in enrollment, the banning of FGM, and many other milestones. But we still want to see the retention rates increase, performance of girls increase, banning of child marriage, increase in women and girls in leadership positions, more female parliamentarians, ministers, female pilots, name it, the sky is the limit, and we want it for our girls.
The strategic plan pursues two strategic objectives, which included efforts to enable girls across the Gambia to access high-quality education and also to perform well at all levels and complete their schooling, while strategic objective 2 is to ensure knowledge and learning of gender and education are managed and shared for the benefit of all working in the field.
At FAWEGAM, our hearts are very big. We have such great big wishes for the women and girls, but our pockets are small. Our hearts do not fit in our pockets. We hope today, after listening to our plans, our hopes and our dreams for the women and girls of the Gambia, and learning how we intend to go about it, you will help us fit our hearts into our pockets.
Presentation on the overview of FAWEGAM's strategic plan, as well as the presentation on FAWEGAM programs, was revealed during the meeting.
Girls are singing, girls are crying, they are crying for equal rights.
The donor brunch brought together partners as well as students and has been able to bring to the fore concerns of girls in school and have immensely contributed to the sharp increase in girls' enrollment. For Grts News, I am Janke Ture.
We will be back with news from outside the Gambia after this break. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Babukar. When I'm on the internet, I go to YouTube, check out my team, send email, make Skype calls, see what's new on Facebook, and chat on WhatsApp. To do all that I want to do online, the fastest and the best way is to use Sunu Bundle from QCell.
Sunu Bundle is available in 20 megabytes, 40 megabytes, 80 megabytes, 150 megabytes, and 300 megabytes.
To get Sunu Bundle, just dial *303# and select your bundle of choice. QCell has reduced the cost of SIM cards from $50 to $10. Yes, only $10. QCell Sunu SIM also comes with $10 credit. So what are you waiting for? Rush now and pick up a QCell SIM card today.
Call 111 for more information.
Sunu SIM, Sunu Bundle, Sunu Bus.
Welcome back. Former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo is set to go on trial on Thursday at the International Criminal Court, charged with war crimes in connection with the deaths of thousands during the brief bloody civil war in 2010. He is the most senior politician ever to be brought before the court. But in a wider sense, it is more than just Gbagbo on trial. Rather, the competence of the court itself seems to be on trial. We have more in this DWTV report.
He's charged with contributing to crimes against humanity in his homeland. This was Laurent Gbagbo at a pre-trial hearing at the International Court of Justice 3 years ago. Now his trial is starting for real. Gbagbo governed Ivory Coast for 10 years. But in the election which began in October 2010, his contender Alassane Ouattara received the majority of votes. Gbagbo refused to hand over power, which led to fighting between the two men's supporters. During the following months, more than 3,000 people died in the ensuing conflict, and tens of thousands fled to neighboring countries. Outbursts of violence between the predominantly Muslim north, where Ouattara is from, and the mainly Christian south, Gbagbo's region, have been occurring for some time. In April 2011, Ouattara's soldiers stormed the presidential palace with French military support and detained Gbagbo. They later handed him over to the International Court of Justice in The Hague. But during his hearings, Gbagbo has continually disputed the court's jurisdiction over him. And his lawyers complain that sitting President Ouattara's supporters also committed war crimes, a view shared by human rights organizations. Despite this claim, Gbagbo alone stands accused at the International Court.
Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, when people around the world commemorate the 6 million Jews and millions of others murdered by the Nazi regime. The 27th of January is the day when, in 1945, Soviet Union troops liberated thousands from the Auschwitz death camp in Berlin. The German government has joined the commemorations. DW has the rest of that story.
Today, there's no squabbling in the Bundestag, not about refugee policy nor party intrigue. Lawmakers honor the victims of the Holocaust, as they have done every January 27th for the past 20 years. Ruth Kluge, 84 years old, survived the concentration camps, first Theresienstadt, then Auschwitz, and finally the camp in Christianstadt. Today, the U.S.-based literature professor held the commemorative speech. She recalled her time doing hard labor in a quarry as a malnourished 12-year-old girl. We clung to each other, but that didn't help much. We couldn't protect ourselves from the cold at all that way. Our clothing was much too thin, and on our feet we wore newspaper. It helped, but it wasn't enough. And we had seeping, infected wounds on our legs because everything healed so poorly. Then she described how female prisoners were exploited as sex slaves, how a brutal SS man punched her in the face because, always hungry, she tried to snatch some scraps of food. But Ruth Kluge is not bitter. She looks positively at today's Germany, especially in the last few months. This country, that was responsible for the worst crime of the century 80 years ago, has today earned the world's approval, thanks to its opening its borders and to the generosity with which it has taken in Syrian and other refugees. I am one of many outsiders who has gone from being wounded to being an admirer. At the end of the ceremony, a musical remembrance of the suffering of forced laborers, uniquely expressed in a piece called The Peat Bog Soldiers. Which was itself composed in a concentration camp. 71 years ago today, Soviet troops liberated the Auschwitz death camp. It was here that 1.1 million people, mostly Jews, were murdered by the Nazis. Survivors of the atrocities laid a wreath at the place where prisoners were once executed.
Also in Berlin, a Syrian migrant is reported to have died after waiting for days in front of a government agency to collect benefits. The agency hasn't confirmed the death, but says it was never designed to deal with vast numbers of migrants. They are often forced to wait for weeks for their appointments and for their applications to be processed. The agency has become a symbol of Germany's chaotic response to Merkel's open-door migration policy. We have more in this DW report.
Endless waiting in line in the mud. That's what refugees face when they show up to register at LAGESO, Berlin's Health and Social Affairs office. In theory, they're supposed to receive health insurance and money for food. In practice, though, many are enduring chaotic conditions that have persisted for months, despite public pressure. There are so many people who have been waiting for a whole month, 6 days a week, and they can't get anything. It's horrible. And all the sick people outside here, they should really be able to move along more quickly.
I'm also in here 2 days waiting for the appointment at LAGESO for money, but I don't have appointment. A lot of people in here, but I think they are not working fast.
On top of all that, aid workers maintain that for the first time one of the refugees in front of the health office here has died. A sick Syrian man who was exhausted from the long wait in the cold. At least that's what a volunteer aid worker claimed on social media. He stood here several times in the conditions we currently have here, in the wind, the cold, the rain. He was then taken in, and his condition deteriorated so severely that he had to get an ambulance. According to our information, he suffered cardiac arrest in the ambulance. Police, health, and municipal authorities say they've followed up on the allegation, but have found no evidence confirming a death. Still, the aid workers stand by their story, saying it's only surprising it didn't happen sooner.
We take our second break now. Sports is next. Stay tuned.
The APRC Peace and Law Fundraising Gala Dinner, it's here again. Yes, the Party of Peace, Progress and One Love brings you Valentine's Gala Dinner. Under the chief patronage of His Excellency Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa, President of the Gambia and APRC Party Chairman. The Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction, APRC, invites you to its Grand Peace and Law Fundraising Gala Dinner, happening on Saturday, 13 February 2016. Venue is at the Senegambia Beach Hotel, commencing at 8 p.m. It is a night of excellence and style. Artists performing include Jaliba Kuyate and the Kumareban, Jalikeba Kuyate, Usunjai Senior, Abu Anfafa, and Baibabu. Enjoy Valentine's with the APRC with one love and one heart. For more information, call 3319744 2222203 or 4496968. One love. What about a one heart? What about let's get together and
Renowned international boxer Badou Jack has been speaking about his desire to help promote boxing in the Gambia. The World Boxing Committee's super middleweight champion was speaking at the Independence Stadium, where he presented boxing gear to officials of the Gambia Boxing Association to the National Sports Council. Babakar Senghor has the rest of that story.
His arrival was greeted with fanfare and enthusiasm, and that is understandable, for Badou Jack is making his first visit to the Gambia in 16 years. Hours after his arrival, the World Boxing Committee super middleweight champion donated a large consignment of boxing gear to the Gambia Boxing Association through the National Sports Council. This latest delivery of boxing materials is a significant development in the drive to popularize this sport, which is gaining momentum in the Gambia. He's made it to the top of the sports through sheer determination, allied with his desire to challenge the very best in boxing. The champion boxer is now hoping to use his newfound stardom to inspire the country's emerging talents.
Next time, hopefully we have maybe 2 months ahead so we can plan it together to do a big, charity project. Right now we only have 1 or 2 days, so this is the best we could get in 1 or 2 days. So yeah, hopefully this equipment can be help to the young boxers, and in the future we can probably help with more stuff.
It's good somebody said earlier on that sometimes or wherever he goes he has that or those Gambian colors. We're quite proud and happy with that. So once more I want to say on behalf of government, the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the National Sports Council in particular, we are quite pleased and very proud of Badou, and want to urge also some other athletes, boxers, footballers, anybody who does anything and is out there, and is Gambian, or has anything to do with the Gambia, to also emulate Badou. I mean, if everybody does like he's done now, easily we could get our sport to another pedestal. So we want to encourage everybody there, to, at least contribute something towards improving our sports.
This development, Boxing Association members say, will help in the promotion of boxing in the country.
I'm going to keep this material, since they are not much, it's going to be for the national team. That is, whenever there's a program outside, there's a competition outside, we will gather them together and train them as a training camp.
I feel great. I feel excited to receive that from him, and that's always what we're wishing, to get fun, to get help in order to make the training successful and easy for us. And for him coming here, that's really great, because, I mean, if I'm a boxer and I see him here as a champion, it will really add my courage in order to train more, to be like him, because he's my role model. I want to be like him in the future.
The 32-year-old Swede is a former Gambian Olympian, having represented the country in the 2008 Summer Games in Beijing. Now, after 16 years since his last visit, the boxing superstar is hoping to make the most of his presence in his second home. JRT Sport, this is Babakar Senghor.
And before we take leave of you, a recap of the day's main stories. President Jammeh has relieved Ministers Lamin Nyabali, Dr. Edward Sajasane, and Yambam Banjai Keita of their cabinet portfolios, and appointed the former Presidential Affairs Minister, Deputy Secretary General. The Finance and Economic Affairs Ministry and Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry have jointly staged a policy fair and interface devoted to public-private partnership. Former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo is set to stand trial for war crimes allegedly committed during the brief civil war that engulfed the Cocoa-rich country in 2010. An Assyrian migrant has reportedly died outside a Berlin government agency after waiting to collect refugee benefits for days. That's all we have for you now. Until then, I am your presenter, FATOUMATA, NDURE, JOBE.